order the February 10th regular meeting. Representing the school board will stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think we have one change to the agenda tonight. We are removing item 6F. I think we're receiving more bids,
Yes,
hopefully.
we just got one today. Another one, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. No one has signed up for comments and concerns. So we'll move forward to it. You have the personnel report. I think there is a leave of absence on there. So is there a motion to accept the personnel report?
And second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. And the personnel report is approved. Next item is SPGS updates.
Yeah, just want to give you the latest updates. We, Second Street School in particular, had a training session on their half day, their early release day, with our partner CTL, who's been working with actualizing and optimizing what it looks like in the classroom for our profile to graduate. So a lot of our teachers got to spend some, and staff got to spend some time really putting together some of the work surrounding personal responsibility and other pieces to bring it to life. And I think, you know, Sam, it's been really refreshing to see our teachers build it and our staff build it and what it's going to be like in the classrooms. And so that's what I want to share with you is it's being built from the ground up as opposed to us handing down, this is how it should look like. And I think that is going to bode well for sustainability. Anytime I've ever tried to hand down, you know, something that hey, this is how it has to look, it's not, we're not the people implementing it in the classroom. And so I think it's been very exciting. And so, Sam, I don't know if you want to say a couple words on how it went and just the next steps from your all's perspective.
So the focus was just the research on note taking and how we get students to take better notes and what that looks like from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes all the way from getting the crowns or colored pencils out and color coding at kindergarten versus taking Cornell notes at 8th grade. We learned a lot about the research behind it and went over several things and some things that we thought were good practice that we realized that we needed to make some tweaks. And then we have them scheduled again for our next early release day. And that's when teachers are going to bring in samples of kind of what kids have been doing for their notes. And then we're going to ask the staff to just a way to continue to grow and some of that personal responsibility within the classroom on to take ownership of their own learning through that. It was good.
It's a good skill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that all?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve this consent agenda?
So,
Second. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the consent agenda is approved. Move to new business. The first item is discussion and approval of the revised BG1 for phase 3.
So just want to talk about this as a whole on items A, B, C, and D because they're all kind of before you. The phase 3 project needs some attention right now. We are working kind of backwards timeline. One of our goals, I met with our construction manager and architect and appreciate them being here, John Hagen-Codell and Mr. Ossie as well, Craig Ossie. But I just wanted to share that what we've discovered is that We had a lot of dollars for that. The scope of the work was almost too large in terms of how much money was going to cost us to cover the wide perspective of or spectrum of both schools and the gym, and so we are having to review and look at what our focus is going to be. And one of the things we all thought through and I want you all to think about is obviously our time and attention has shifted more towards the Wilkinson gym because we have limited funds and we just don't have the ability to do everything we want to do. And if we try to just do half of something and extend out, we're going to end up having limited to no real renovations taking place, as if you understand what I'm saying in terms of place-based projects. However, we do still have $5.5 million project, which is exciting. And I do believe that it's going to make a significant change on how we do things. It will have impact on us while we're doing the process. And we haven't, so just for your knowledge, we haven't even had the initial BG1 approved yet. It's taken this long. So when we say revised BG1, it's actually not been built. So what we're really asking for tonight is approval to focus on the scope, the changes for the scope of the work. And then just looking further, the design development will be explained by Craig and team here. And then BG2 is more on the scope and energy goals. And then BG3 is the cost opinion. So there's still a lot of work to be done on specific details. We're just now getting into some of the schemata and the design so that we can actually do the work or move forward and get approval so that we're not sitting months behind. So the ultimate goal is to get to, it looks like, and I've spoken with these two gentlemen, May, June for a start date, if we can get there. And it would be a full 12 months. And one of the things that has been brought up, just to be fully transparent, we would not have access to the gym during that 12 months. Reason being, we would extend it out another 6 months, and it also would cost us, I don't have the exact cost, but probably another $300,000, $400,000 to be frank. So that's expensive. And so I think we will have to work hard. There's questions you're going to have about what are we going to do, but I just wanted to give you the full scope. And so I think without further ado, I'd like you if your question. Yes.
With respect to item 6A,
Yes.
since we don't have a document and that document is still in process, are
Yeah.
you just wanting some consensus here tonight on
Yes.
the scope?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
More about consensus, yes, on this particular item.
Okay.
So there's
With respect to the scope?
the scope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any
so you-
questions or comments on that?
Why is it going to take 12 months to do that? It seems like we build a whole new building in this time.
You are building a whole new building inside your existing shell. We have to literally go in and rip out walls and floors, put in plumbing,
Yeah.
subgrade,
brand new.
while we're stripping off some of the masonry on the outside and relaying it. And just that process of
Yeah.
first the demolition, then the plumbing goes in and the dirt before they can even pour in any new foundations, but definitely the slab. Then they have to lay up all the walls,
Yeah.
and they have all of the mechanical systems in addition to the plumbing, the electrical, and that whole process.
Plus lead time on equipment, material, new HVAC. It's going to, 12 months, to be honest with you, is a tight window, in my opinion.
So you've got 100 doors and hardware in the job. Not quite, but it's like about 90, I think. So when we approve a bid, then they submit a shop drawing saying, we read your drawings and your specs and we think this is what you want. And we review it and we mark it up and we send it back and say, well, you were right on most of them, but these doors you need to change. And then they go through that process back and forth with us before they can even order hardware. And some of that hardware may be, 10-week lead time. So that all adds into the process of the 12-month time frame. They can start demolition in that time frame, but some items are long lead time.
It's not off the shelf. all the way.
Nothing's off the shelf anymore. Nothing is stocked in this day and age.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions with respect to the scope and limiting the scope from what we initially had?
Because it included Frankfort High and Second Street renovations, correct?
Small
Oh,
renovations.
small.
Yeah.
Okay, and so are we gonna put those after
Well, they'll have to come in
another project totally? Okay.
Are there any portions of those, I'm thinking about like the roof and soffit at Second Street, there's some that seem to me more pressing than others and perhaps have implications for the integrity of the
There are
building.
some that are more pressing than others. We just can't have to do the gym.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
gonna do the gym, we have to do the gym. And when the discussion came up, well, let's make the gym floor 10 feet longer, well, that means we don't have the option of not replacing the goals because they have to be moved. You know, and we don't have the option of not replacing the plywood around the playing court. We have to replace all of the wooden floor. So each one of these decisions impacts another piece and another cost. And so at this point, we don't see having the funding to be able to do another site as well. I'm looking at having to do an alternate for the paving because you've got a lot of site there. And now we know how much site is yours.
Yeah.
Almost no. Let's leave it at that. We're closer to no.
It always comes back to money.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we all kind of on the same page?
Now the ESCO, don't forget the ESCO project's still going to continue on, and that is going to be helping support the schools both in lighting and chiller, and we just did a boiler over at Frankfort High, which was excellent. So there's still work, and don't get me wrong, I've talked to Craig about this. Obviously, be up to the board, but there could be remaining monies. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but these would be like alternate opportunities that we could potentially. I'm not saying I don't want to put everybody's hopes up, but potentially like the roof or something would take place. But there is going to be bonding money still available for the district, even after these projects. So.
Can't spend what we don't have, but nonetheless, it's disappointing that we can't
Yeah.
do all of these things we've talked about.
I'm with you.
Frankfort Independent.
There's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
I just, and I agree with you 100%. Great opportunities, but we have to be realistic too about the opportunities that are before us. Yeah. So.
Okay, if you're ready, we'll.
Okay. I'll up here, before we even get to any slides from the design development drawings, I'm going to explain to you where we are in the process. Design development is a snapshot. It's one moment in the design process between the schematics that were the conceptual design and the final construction documents. It's one of the points where we come to you for a review, and everything will again get submitted to the Department of Education to make sure everything's on track. And the reason for this design development level conversation is the budget discussion, making sure we're on scope. Also, it's coordination. This is one of the times after, all up until now, we've been doing a lot of coordinating as well. But after this meeting, next week, I'll set a meeting with John Hagan for the CM side and all of my consultants from mechanical, plumbing, electrical, structural, and we'll sit down around a table together and go through this full set of documents together for coordination before we move into the actual construction documents themselves. So this gives us a chance for communication, make sure that we're not missing the mark, make sure that you know what's going on and what we've found, what's changed by necessity, what opportunities have come up, and that's really what design development is about. So it's not a final set. This is still a conversation. Okay. We need to submit design development documents to KDE for their comments before we can submit the construction documents. And I'll be back with construction documents after we have comments from KDE. And that'll, at the earliest, be a month from now. We'll go over why it might take at least a month beyond just taking a month to do the next level of documentation in a minute. So to catch you up, Dr. Barber already told you the initial BG1 is still waiting to cycle through. I was on the phone with him up there at KDE today. Marcus said he expects it to be in his inbox from the finance side tomorrow morning, because their meeting is on Tuesday afternoons to pass through those things at the facility side. So he is expecting it to be on his desk before noon tomorrow. So that being said, we're closer. Without an initial BG1, I've not been able to submit the schematic drawings that you approved in October, because their computer system will not allow me to submit the documents and log them into their file until they have officially assigned the BG1. That's the official side. The reality is, Dr. Barber, Bobby, and I went up and met with them at KDE between then and now and sat down and had a discussion about the project. They are aware of all of it, so not expecting any kickback on that. Okay, what else have I been doing in all this time? I've been coordinating with Air Source Technology for your abatement. We just got a budget number from them on Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. That's part of the new BG3. Been working with Harry Girdler, your surveyor. That has been an adventure. So in that process, he's been meeting with Tony Scholler next door, talking with Greg McClavick. We've discovered that the alley that runs between their two houses is actually yours. We found that though the properties on the opposite side of the parking lot in the back are 100 feet deep according to their deeds, your property line does not go all the way up to that. So there is this bizarre no man's land. We'll get to that drawing here in a second and show you what's going on there. But in short, they've been meeting with the sewer department. They found a manhole that was covered with asphalt when they ran cameras, dug that up, so then when we poured dye down the toilets and flushed them, we could see where things were flowing. All this leads to better information, for better documentation, for a better bid number for you. Okay, I've been meeting with my engineers, structural, mechanical, plumbing, electrical. We're designing to we're planning to exceed the ASHRAE 90 standard by more than 10%. ASHRAE 90 is the energy code standard for energy usage on the building, and we're planning to exceed that by about 10% or more if we can, and that will get us the Energy Star rating that you guys work so hard to maintain. We've been back at the site verifying more field dimensions as we get into more details. Before we had our meeting about scope and the costs involved, we were developing all of these scopes towards the design development. That means I had acoustical audio in from just across the river from Louisville in Indiana. We set up speakers in the auditorium at the high school. We created an audio model of that space. So we had this digital model, filled it with sound like you fill a bathtub. Took all these readings all around the room. It was a lot of fun for the kids. They wondered what was going on in the auditorium that day. We made lots of weird noises. And so now we have the information to put that bid package together when you have the money available. Something similar on the lighting. Gary Scott from our office met with a specialty lighting consultant that just does basically lighting for stages and auditoriums. And so we've worked with them to develop those issues towards your final lighting plan. We pulled the stops out on both of those now and said we'll get back to those in the next phase. So we've done cost estimates. John Hagan's team has done cost estimates. I met with John Hagan before Christmas, gave him a set of drawings, went back and forth with questions. He came back right after New Year's with a cost estimate, and we went through it, went back, came back with a second round after his estimator got over the flu, and then we got together and met with Dr. Barber and Bobby to go through some of our concerns. Some of the things that changed were, like in the high school, schematic, I use a square footage cost for carpeting. I say, okay, we have this many square feet in the auditorium, this many square feet in the media center. I plug in the cost for the type of carpet that we put down and a cost for demolition, and that's a schematic cost estimate. The more detailed level that we get to now says, oh wait, it's not just carpeted in the aisles. Carpet runs under all of those seats, and you have to unbolt all those seats in groups of 3 or 4. You have to number them sequentially so they go back in the right place, store them outside of the room so they can tear up all the carpet, put down all the carpet, then find the right holes to reattach each of those in the right place. So that added almost $30,000.
34,000.
Yeah, to the cost estimate for replacing the carpet in the auditorium. That was a whole lot more than the cost of carpet for the auditorium.
Yeah.
Okay? So that at that point you start weighing priorities. Other things, let's see. We decided we were going to make the gym floor 10 feet longer during schematic, but the cost estimate for the gym floor and all that had been done before I got to that cost estimate. Cost estimate had been done before we got that revised from the drawings. Communication between the CM and my office is ongoing, but these are drawings under development. They don't have a bunch of notes on them yet, so they're having to put some contingency on all their numbers based on their interpretation of what they're seeing at the moment and what we're getting from our conversations. We didn't even have a site survey when we were doing our first one, so we didn't know we connected to any utilities over at the gym. And now we're finding ways to run duct work in the gym that are going to involve taking out some more plaster ceiling, but it's going to be a whole lot more efficient and less invasive in your building, less stuff exposed to reach everywhere. So we're finding ways to do things throughout all of this, and it's tweaking prices left and right. Dr. Barber already mentioned BG3 is a cost form, BG2 is energy and finishes and things related to scope. I'm sorry, but if I don't go by my list, I'm going to get lost. So one of the other big questions I know you're going to have is schedule, and we'd said, yeah, we'd like to have this where we can get it out to bid as soon as possible. The reality, without even being able to give schematic to the Department of Education yet, if they get the BG1 approved tomorrow, like they say, then I might not get an email on it until Wednesday, at which point we upload the schematic. And then it can take them a week before they get back to us. They could take them 2 weeks, but I don't think it will. And when they give me a response, I'll immediately kick the design development. I'll write up a response to any of their questions and send the design development with them. But they should really have a revised BG1 at that point, showing them that the scope has changed. And all I can do, if it happens before then, is I'll send them a note saying, revised BG1, concept approved by the board, but will be forthcoming after the next board meeting. So best case scenario is we would put this out to bid the last of March, which gets us bids at the end of April. You guys would approve it your first meeting in May on the 11th. But then it could be 6 weeks before we have approval to sell bonds. So if you have the money to float an interim contract with, say, the demolition contractor, then we'll start that process. But we can definitely order, issue a notice to proceed to all the contractors involved, and they can then start their paperwork side, because we know the paperwork on all the submittals, as we discussed earlier, is a big part of this process, and they need to start that as soon as we can get the ball rolling. And if they know that it's a legitimate project and it's going to be theirs, they'll usually jump right in on that. Okay? Catherine, could you please pull up the site
The
plan?
number one or the two?
The number one. So the site plan, I just want to go over this with you because this is information we didn't even have at schematic. Your property not only goes along Ewing Street, it comes up here between the gym and Tony Scholar's property, and that big tree is on your property. I'm sorry, it's yours. And these other trees are on yours too. This is the fence line here. So the fence extends from Tony's yard beyond into your property, because your property jogs down here and then back up. He did that years ago when that was a brush pile and wasn't being maintained. He fenced it so he could make sure he'd just mow it when he was mowing. He knows that that's not his property. That's actually the area that floods when water runs off your lot. So he can't use it for much anyway. That's a low spot. The alley that runs between Scholars and McClovick's. Right now, every indication is that belongs to the school board.
Wow.
Okay? It looks like this fence right here. David's fence is just a little bit over the property line, but it's a rectangular fence with 90-degree corners. It's very minor. Right now, there's a lot of growth along here anyway. That's about where we expected it to be, but as you're running back along the east side, all of the properties over here, most of them, their deeds say they're 100 feet deep, which puts their backyards right along that line. But your property line, according to your deed, is here. That creates a no man's land that nobody's quite sure if it's owned by anyone. Welcome to historic South Frankfort. Originally, 3rd Street ran through here.
Right.
And would have connected to where Ewing Court is now. And this was 2 lots facing 3rd Street. So there's a lot of history that Harry had to read through a lot of documents to piece this together. So right now, we believe this is your property. You will see multiple fences that are coming out onto your property. We can clean some of that up if we have the money to do all of the site development as well, which I'm hoping that we can tweak a lot of that in here. But you'll also see this is the fence at the back of your bus lot, right there. But your property line is back here. So if you want to keep that as a wild green wall that helps separate your buses from your neighbors, that's fine. You need to know that it's your wild green wall, okay? Now you can know that. Before, I don't know that anybody knew where your property lines were. It's really hard to know what property to maintain when you don't know you own it. I don't think you're going to have any trouble. Your neighbors are going to keep maintaining this as they have for the last however many decades, and they're going to keep parking there. And that's okay, except on game night. You can kick them out.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so can you slide to the next photo just for a second? This makes that a little bit clearer. I overlaid it with a Google Earth image just so you can start to see, the property line doesn't show where the houses are for each of those properties. And you can see Dave Stumbo's house is pretty close to this line. Of course, Tony's and Greg's houses are right there on the line. This house is fairly close, but you've got large backyards here. That's what makes this a better space to park your buses. You're not starting them up at 4 a.m. on a winter day right next to somebody's bedroom window. And that's also one good argument for having your kind of green wall there. It gives some privacy to those folks. Okay? And yes, this really is an odd curve that comes around through here to catch your was that the old music building at one point? I've heard it.
Frisky.
Okay, I've heard it called many things. And of course, this is Whitehead Hancock's property, and this is the city's property with the pump house. So that kind of gives you a quick overlay of what we've discovered. I'm not sure what that line is for. I do know we dug up a manhole here that was completely buried in asphalt. That's the one that we found. It looks like all of the sewers on this side of the building are coming out to a manhole here, and the restrooms on this side are coming out to a manhole there. But there is also a sewer line that runs back here, downhill away from the building. So it's fun, and now we know where the storm sewers are in your back parking lot and have those located as well. We got out there one day with, trying to think who we were out there with. We were out there with Mr. Hancock and his crew, and walked around and looked at what work they'd done there in the last 2 decades. So,
Houston, that square is Herring Girdler's certification.
yeah, if it's on the other page, yeah, that's what it is. And it just doesn't show up here with the photograph overlay.
The sewer line that runs along the back of the property, that's a city, you're talking about a large city sewer?
You have city sewers, you have some that are your own, but yes, it's really kind of odd because these all went in long before anybody had easements. So yes, this is a city sewer line out here on the front. This storm sewer line, I'm not sure if that's yours or the city. It's just catching your storm water and then it's dumping it off site. So that is very likely a city sewer, but since it's all on your project,
It's a storm sewer.
it's a storm.
Okay.
But this is Frankfort. You don't have a separate
That's
storm.
true, they're combined.
Yes, storm and sanitary are usually combined. But this has the big catch basins that are in your parking lot, and it's draining your parking lot. And that's all that I know of that's going into it. They're still running cameras. There's a separate project going on where the city is trying to have cameras run through all of these and map them that they didn't know where they were. That's how we actually found this manhole up here. There was a flag there, and it was painted with a mark, but it wasn't something that the city sewer guys had done in preparation for our meeting, or that Harry had been able to mark. It was the other crew doing that, so then the city checked with them, and when they ran the camera through, they'd seen that there was a manhole there. So there's coordination happening by necessity, which is good. Okay, can you pop me over to number 2? Now, you guys probably don't want to look at all, whatever, 26, 28 pages on here, but if we jump ahead a few here, Catherine, let's... Life safety plan, that's what goes to housing building construction. It'll have all the calculations for egress on it. Next, please. Then you're into the site survey. On beyond that, you'll get into my demolition plan, showing all the things that we're taking out of the building. And with that, well, this is actually a structural plan. I forgot, those weren't in the set I sent you. Those came in since the stuff I sent you this morning. I told you it's a snapshot of a moment in time. The moment's changed. So this is a structural drawing. I've got 2 pages of structural documents in here right now, and we have rotated in order to fit them on this page at a larger scale. Department of Education requires that bathrooms and things like that be a 1/4-inch scale on a page. And they want to see that we've gotten that far by the time we get to design development. And the only way to get the entire side of the building on here is to rotate it 90 degrees or do it in little segments. It's a whole lot more clear for a contractor if they can see the whole side under the bleachers in one drawing. Okay, next should be demolition. So this is the dash lines of all the things we're tearing out. And then you get into the new construction. And there are basically 3 floor plans. You know your base floor. Yeah, next please. Which has all of your new layout below, as we discussed last time. Little tweaks as I'm getting dimensions to work out in a little more detail. I went back and did some field dimensions here to get those windows located. Next page. Your corridors on the upper floor. We're going to have some mechanical coming down through these from the triangular space that is above the hallway and those rooms, which I can show you here in a minute. Next, please. And then you have the bleachers themselves. the full gym floor. This is the view if you were at the ceiling looking down. The most relevant piece here is you're actually going to find the mezzanine that's above your stage
Yeah.
in this. We're going to end up with mechanical equipment sitting out here on these roofs. So that's going to help serve all the spaces under the bleachers. Not on the front roofs, on the back roofs. Okay, and of course a roof plan is the other part of my plan drawings. Next, please. Told you we've done enlarged drawings so we can start putting dimensions on. You can't dimension toilet stalls and toilet fixtures at 1/8 inch on a plan. It's completely illegible. So that's why you have to go up to 1/4 inch scale. They can't build it if you give them a drawing this big. Next, please. Okay, we need a 1/4 inch layout for all the gym floor because we'll have to dimension all the lines on there as well. You dimension the overall court, but you have to dimension where each practice court falls in between. So that is your larger court that you'd requested. Next. There will be reflected ceiling plans for all of these because we'll have to coordinate lights, diffusers, everything that's going on the ceiling, speakers, horn strobes, anything like that will all go on this plan. So at this point, it's just the drawings of the spaces. Go ahead and flip through a couple of these in the next, because it's for each floor. We located where all your existing stuff is, so at least I have that to start with. Next, elevations, showing that we're repairing the piers, we're replacing the windows, repairing cracks. I have not yet done signage to cover these, but that's going to be the most attractive thing we can do on a budget. You can't jack the wall back up. It's sitting on sand. But we can fix the cracks so there isn't air coming and water coming in and out of your building. And then these are actually some primary places that you can put panthers, signage. Branding is important now. I know all the districts are going to that. Okay, next please. So in the sections, if you slice the building and look at the bleachers, this is enlarged. So you have locker rooms down below, and then upstairs you have this hallway with little storage rooms and then the ramp that comes down out into the bleachers. Above this hallway is a prime location for me to run ductwork. Now you may remember there are some beams that run diagonal. They're supporting your bleachers, but you see them in the hallway. And some of them are wider than others because there's already piping in beside them. We're going to make some of them a little wider that aren't wide now, and we're going to run duct runs from up in here down into these spaces. And then we can drop in the storage rooms down here. Right now, you have ductwork laying on the floors of these storage rooms already. So we're not really taking up additional space there other than if we have to set some equipment. But we're trying to get as much as we can up in here and then on the roofs in the back. Okay. Gymnasium, looking at it reminds me. HVAC for the gymnasium. Right now we're designing for air conditioning and ventilation and heating for your support spaces. We're doing just heating and ventilation in the gym with the ability to add air conditioning later. But the estimate for the air conditioning units themselves for the gym, the additional equipment needed, is about $355,000 plus any structural modifications that we need to do. So that's probably about $380,000. And beyond that, our estimate of operating costs per year is about $28,000. And it's because you can't just run this part-time, because if you just try and kick it on for the weekend, you've got a game Friday night or Saturday, let's kick it on, and then, the kids can suffer during PE, right? They've done it for years. Well, that is really hard on your wood floor because your humidity is going up and down, up and down, up and down, and your floor is going to be wavier than the river. Okay? So when you're ready to pull that trigger and put that funding in, it will be set up where you can add that. We're not designing a system that you can't add to. Okay? One thing we are doing is improving all of your ventilation. Right now, you don't have it in any of your locker rooms. You used to. And there used to be much better ventilation in the gym itself, but the 2 rooftop fan systems have been closed off and covered with tarps because they were leaking water in through them onto your wood floor. So we'll refit and replace all of that and get you taken care of there. Okay, next. Door schedules, window schedules, those are things that are happening. I know you care about that. You do in the end because it makes your money come in better if people aren't guessing at it. But these are the level of things that we're getting to now. Okay, beyond this, we're gonna have mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and I'm guessing you guys don't want to go into that in great detail, but it's in the set and we're working through those levels as well. It's in the PDF that you guys got earlier today. That's the current standing on each of those. So the rest of those pages are here if you want to see this. Apparently it's 45 pages in this set right now. It will get bigger. There will be more pages of details, more pages with notes, but that's part of the process. Okay, questions?
Remind me why the 10-foot addition in length?
The request was to go to a college length floor, and that came about from your coaching staff. I'd already been told you wanted to replace the goals, so it wasn't a stretch to relocate them. Mm-hmm. We were expanding the front of where the stage is now out for handicap seating, so we were going to end up restriping the floor. So if you're going to put new floors down over the whole space, and you're going to be replacing the goals anyway, then it's not a cost difference then. But if you're not going to do all those things, the only premium for the 10-foot, if you're doing all the other pieces, is 10 foot of striping.
And I think there was some discussion about the potential to host
Tournaments.
some college tournaments.
Yeah.
That potential wouldn't be there if we didn't expand
That's
the
correct.
floor.
That's correct.
Okay.
What's going on with the stage area?
Stage area. Same as last time. It's a classroom space on the back. Can we go back to about, probably the 7th page? Let's see. Okay, that'll work. Whatever page this is. So this is one large classroom space. We're extending it out about 3 feet here with a glass rail or a handrail of some sort so you don't roll off. But there'll be a lift here, so handicap seating can be up at this height. A glass wall going back to what is now your stage. It becomes a classroom. If it's your weight training room, that may very well be your choice. We can easily, because of the way this is structured when we went underneath it, it's wood framing on basically little stud walls going back here. If we set a new stud wall in between those at half spans, it's reduced the span of all those and you can load it with whatever you need. It turns out this space was already designed for a heavy load, which I'd been skeptical about until Anthony crawled down in there. That's why I have a structural engineer look at these things. So these become classroom spaces with the connecting doors as they are now, but you'll have a glass wall separating it for the gym.
I think
What type of flooring are we talking about in there?
Haven't even talked about that yet. Most of the flooring out here, locker rooms, I was going to leave concrete. The entry area, LVT, is the no wax flooring that you guys have been moving to in your other buildings, and it will hold up to the traffic. And then the upper walkways would be the same. Depending on what you want to do with this classroom, LVT may or may not be your best option. You might leave it
The reason
wood.
I ask is we have some groups that use that area currently, from like cheerleading and possibly dance team to batting practice for baseball.
Yeah, I don't have to change the floor out there. I have to extend the floor out here.
Right.
But what we do outside of the glass wall, that could be LVT, but we could leave the wood floors inside of
And
there.
we'll still have the height.
Yes.
Is currently
Yes.
there.
So why do you need to extend the stage when you could just do a straight line across instead of making that weird?
Okay, if I hold this back here, this gets tighter on space. The stair and the lift don't leave you much room coming across there straight to have parked and people passing them. It was really tight.
So instead of having angled line, the straight line, the angled line, if you just did a straight line across,
We can work on that if that's what you would prefer. I was told we wanted as much room as we could get in here for equipment.
and why a glass wall?
That was a request that came to me for a view from this room out into the stage, or out into the gym. It doesn't have to be. I'll build it out of whatever you'd like.
What's the cost of a glass wall versus a regular wall?
Probably about double, but I was only going to build glass up to about 8 feet and then go to studs above that.
And where that will be between the handicapped area and the,
Classroom space.
I just don't understand the purpose of that. Someone can enlighten me on the purpose. I don't know why we would spend the money on that if there's no purpose.
I think if I remember correctly, it was just an element of separation if that room were to be used for any kind of community purpose or hospitality room or.
We have to have a separation, especially if you're going to air condition the classroom side. Now, what that separation is, it's a material. It's shown as glass because I'd had a request that there be a lot of view from this space out and back in. It also gives security. If they're in here and there's coaching going on here, you can see in that space.
Who requested it to be glass?
That came up in one of our early design meetings.
I think that was really early on when we
Yeah.
were talking about getting rid of the stage and lowering it down and
Yeah.
making like a large community type room or something. I remember some
Yeah.
discussion about it.
But I can make it out of a stud wall, put cement board on it so it can handle the abuse. I can put 1 or 2 windows in it if you want. It's going to be a big wall at the end of your court. You've got a big wall on the end of your court here too.
Yeah.
It's just this one's going to be framed by an opening, but that's quite all right. It's a converted stage,
Right.
repurposing. So if you want, I can put a door with a side light on either side, and I can punch a couple of windows in there, or I can make it all solid.
So how much cost is involved in building that out instead of just taking it straight across?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head. I would have to do
You
a
don't
little
have
bit of
everything
research.
memorized?
I'm trying. Do you see how many notes I brought trying to anticipate questions? And Becky, you just caught me off guard. It's wood framed like the stage.
Uh-huh.
So building that isn't the expensive part. You're going to need a guardrail either way to keep people from rolling
Right.
off.
Right.
But
And the
building
lift equipment.
yeah, you're going to have a lift either way.
Right.
So really, I don't know, John Hagan, if we're building something,
If I'm
about 40
not
inches
understanding
high.
the question, I think the reason you've got it that way is so you can cheat that lift in and not have.
That was part of it, the
walkway
lift and the
block.
stairs.
Right.
But if we ran the wall straight back here, it's we couldn't park as many people because we can't get the width and still have the circulation space we need at the top of the lift and the top of the stairs each side.
It seems like you're increasing it though. Because see, you're cinching it to a, see how you're making cinching it into a point as opposed to just doing it straight across.
But that's just circulation space, and that is the width I need for circulation.
Right.
It's just, if I have a person parked here, they're coming back that far as well.
Are you saying
I can
keep this, Becky, and then keep this across?
I can reduce the size of the room. I can make it straight. It will save you money.
You're saying not extend it out? I'm just trying to.
I don't know how it would work, but I don't understand why we do this crazy thing.
That's just extending
As opposed to just doing it straight across. You don't gain that much space though.
And significant square footage in a classroom.
If it's straight across there, the lift would still be out into the area.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The lift is still going to be here, regardless.
Right.
Yeah, how much space is that?
If you cut this off, I don't know. I'd have to know the square footage.
Yeah.
Actually, right now, I'm not even sure that the left and the right side align with each other because I added a bathroom in on this side. Because that came about when we didn't want to have somebody who was seated here having to go down the left and across the gym floor to get to the restrooms in the front. Plus, you've got a lot of people who work and stuff in the back side of the building.
So what's going on with the front down here?
Down here,
Uh-huh.
replacing doors, making the ticket windows operable again, taking out the walls that you can't get a cooler through in the concessions, replacing the sinks, making sure you have hot water in the concessions, and finishes.
So
That's
do
the
we
bulk of
need
it.
2 different ticket booths?
You have 2 different ticket booths. I'm replacing all the windows in the building already. You have coiling overhead doors in those rooms. So there's really very little I can do to those spaces.
Okay.
I say it's the same process for each of them. I'm replacing the windows, getting new lights.
So how big are those ticket booths? How many? I mean, how big are they? Just like 2-person standing big, or are they?
They're your existing ticket booths. 2
I've never
people
been
is a
inside a
tight
ticket
fit in there.
Okay.
You can fit 2 people, yes.
Because I've never
They're not
done.
bad at all.
I've never done tickets out of a ticket booth. I've always done
Okay.
tickets
I
inside the
have
door.
for tournaments, like district and regional tournaments,
Mhm.
and they're very comfortable for 2 people.
You can't use them now because the windows have been replaced with solid panels.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's used for storage, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of. They're kind of empty.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah. So they're about, I'm thinking 8 feet wide at the back, and then they narrow down to about 5 feet at the front.
Could you walk us through the process for how this snapshot in time, how frequently does it come back to the board? What triggers it coming back to the board?
If you guys are okay with this moment in time and with the notes that you're requesting that I look at, then I can send back things on those specific notes and come back with those. But I need to progress with all of this with my engineers and turn these into construction documents. That's at least a solid month's worth of work for all of us. At which point, let me see, I had some notes on schedule here, but when we finish it and bring it back to you, then it will also, about the same time you're telling us, yes, you can move on with this, John Hagan and his crew will have done a basic breakout of what the bid packages are going to be. That's another thing we have to coordinate through all of this.
I think what you might be asking too.
And just so,
if you don't mind me, maybe what she's saying is, and forgive me if I'm interrupting, but if they had some concerns about some changes, how would they provide input beyond tonight? Like once it starts changing, when would they see the documentation again? Is that what you're kind of saying?
You need to let me know you have concerns. And I will get you, even if I can't be at the next board meeting, I can get you some sketches.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a problem. But like this area, I can do a sketch and have it for you at the next board meeting and say, okay, A or B, which do you like? What do you like out of each of them?
Yeah.
That's not going to kill my engineers. They can proceed knowing that this area is in question. But we can't proceed if the locker rooms are in question. You know, it's big items that we really need. We need to know that you're okay with not air conditioning the gym, but setting up so you can add air conditioning in the future. Then we work on our stuff to get it ready for a bid package. John Hagan updates cost estimates as he's doing the bid package separations, and we come back to you in a month to discuss all of those things combined. If you then approve it, we take all of those comments, make sure that we haven't missed anything you bring up at the final document meeting discussion, and we tweak based on those things, and we submit it to KDE, Housing, Building, and Construction, and it takes at least 2 weeks for KDE to give us permission to advertise. Then at that point, we will have had all of our coordinations cleaned up. It'll go out to bid for a month. It'll advertise. We'll take bids. We'll have time to review the bids before we bring them into the board. And this, unlike our past projects where we've had a general contractor, we've had one bidder that we needed you to approve bids on, and maybe some packages for materials purchases, POs. This could be 8 different bid packages plus their POs. Every one of them will be a bonded contractor. So, you know, Hancock has done a lot of your heating and cooling projects. They just did your boiler replacement. Joe said to me, oh yeah, this is a CM job. I have to go make sure I've got all of my paperwork in order to bond it. It's not a problem for him to bond it. He just needs to make sure beforehand he gets his paperwork in order. So it's just a little bit different process. Okay?
I guess my problem is I don't know all the questions I have because I didn't get these documents until late and I haven't had time to review them.
Okay.
So,
Well, do you want to not approve this until the next meeting and have time to review it?
Yeah.
Because that's okay. But I have to bring it to you and go through it. Because if I just ship it to you without any discussion, it's not a conversation. And then it just spirals downward quickly. So if you want to make this a discussion for the next meeting, honestly, since we don't even have an initial BG1 approved yet, I don't think it's really going to impact the overall schedule if you guys want to wait 2 weeks. Just know that it will be a month from that before I can get final documents ready. So yeah, it does have an impact, but honestly, I think we're being crazy optimistic on getting all this stuff through KDE. This process has not been fast. So I am perfectly happy with you guys taking a look at this. Just know it's a snapshot in time has changed between when I sent it to the email this morning of the full PDF set and what it is right now.
it was 43 pages this morning.
Yeah, 2 structural pages were added. The elevations page has changed completely. The index page has changed. And one of the other pages I know I worked on a lot today and updated in here, the site stuff.
Tomorrow will be 49.
So it's growing like topsy. It does. That's part of the process. Okay?
And this gives you guys times to review it, us as a group.
So
reflect
the
on it.
other two pieces, beyond design development drawings, are a BG2 and a BG3. And if you want to hold off on these until the next meeting, that is fine, but I want you to see what they are now. Okay? The BG2 really doesn't have a whole lot going on for you guys. It's our area calculation, energy information, and some information on what the building is made of. Well, it's existing. So the shell of the building, the only changes are really the windows. So that's an easy piece of paper. The one that's more important to you guys is probably the BG3, which is the updated budget form. Okay? Bottom line still matches the BG1. What we've moved around is we had to pull some money out for, now we have an asbestos abatement number that's an estimate. And we've had some updated numbers on stuff from the CM. They said we need to put more in here for printing costs because we've got a lot more sets going out to bid with bidding all the different packages. So that has come out of the equipment fee because we'd had in here money for furniture, which if we're not doing a bunch of work at 2nd Street and the high school, you're still going to have equipment, and we're not trying to spend all your money. But that was kind of the area that we had that, okay, this is less defined money. And we're defining some of that now. Okay?
Since the scope has changed.
Yes.
Did you talk about, I mean, you showed us our property lines. Has there been anything developed on what we want to do with those, all that area? Like, is the old Frisky building just staying there?
We have no plans to remove the old Frisky building in this scope. That's not been discussed in anything until this very moment.
Okay.
We had discussions about doing paving improvements,
Right.
capping the area that's already paved, restriping, and then paving the section that comes out, big parking area, the gravel. And that, I think, may end up being an alternate. Because we want to make sure we get you a bid that's in budget, and that's also a real clean alternate to bid, because it doesn't involve 13,000 bid packages. Paving is kind of its own thing anyway, so it's real easy to bid that and then decide if it's in your budget, or table it until you see where your contingency is later and then rebid it. Okay?
I think Bobby's gonna put a chain on his truck and pull that Frisky building down.
You know,
Love to see
we
it.
I
might just
volunteer
huff
Bobby's
and
truck
puff.
a lot, you know?
We might just huff and puff and try and blow it down.
Exactly.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's why I like
I would like to remove it,
I would like to remember.
but we'll see how that.
Well, we probably need to see what's in it
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Exactly.
Might need for John Hagan to see what's in it. Maybe that could be a job trailer. Haul it off when they're done.
I think
It's
it
actually not a
originally
bad
was
idea.
a trailer.
You know,
Seriously.
that's,
You know, that's not a bad idea.
Wow.
Plus Eddie worked out there, so I don't know, you know,
It was the growing place when I was growing up.
yeah.
Yeah.
It does look like a work trailer.
Yeah.
we've
No, it
used
really
temporary
does.
classroom buildings
They could use
on
it.
several of our renovation
And
projects.
just haul it out.
As that was the job trailer at the end of the job, they'd haul them off. You know, that's something we could
It's
look
fair
at for
play.
here.
Give you space.
If they, yeah, if you don't have to bring in a job trailer, that can help offset the demo.
You got a
cost.
brand new office? We'll give you a key.
If we can find the key.
We'll make a new lot.
I'll just do a padlock.
Probably
we'll do
put it
that.
on the master key.
So just hold on all.
What?
Yeah,
Second, okay. We'll do that then.
it's not a big deal.
Okay, so the next, we will table these, or they will show up on the next agenda.
So Craig, can I ask a weird question?
You can.
So you had talks of lighting and sound and carpet in the auditorium and had like tentative costs. Is there any way you could share those as just tentative costs?
I would have to, I didn't bring those cost estimates with me.
I'm not meaning
But,
tonight. I'm just.
Like, yeah, but I'm thinking the sound system in the auditorium, it's one I have on top of my head in the 40 to 45,000 range.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, you were thinking it was 34,000 just to move the seats back, and it was, what, half of that to carpet it? I mean,
It's about right.
it was 18, 20 to carpet it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I have even seen the final on the lighting costs because Gary was working on that.
Okay.
But the good news was LED technology is caught up
Oh, yeah.
amazingly, even for stage lighting, which was not the first focus for it, on replacement lamps. So a lot of your lamps could be replaced with an LED, take some of the load off your system,
Right.
and then add a few
That's what I'm
supplemental
interested in.
lights. And by adding
like to do that.
supplemental lights, those can be full color change control, so you don't have to get up there and change gels. And you've had like 3 or 4 go bad over time. So if you replace those 3 or 4 with the full color change mode and then just relamp the rest so it's just dimming capabilities on those,
Yeah.
it was going to be a lot less expensive than typical stage lighting.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not going to cost $200,000,
Yeah.
It's great.
but I don't know that I ever saw what the final number was going to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, last call. Any more questions for Craig while he's here? Okay, thank you all for being here tonight. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the SFCC offer of assistance.
Just second offer. Once again, fortunate to continue to get some offers come through and just help support our technology plan. So I fully recommend.
Okay, is there a motion to? That's all.
Move to approve.
A second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the offer is approved. And we are to superintendent comments.
Just finished off a great homecoming week. Had a unexpected day on Friday. Probably much needed for staff, families, students. Not a traditional called off day, but there's a lot going on. Safety's number one. Like I said, the ended on a great note. We had our homecoming dance on Saturday night. Did win our homecoming game on a Wednesday. Then played county on a Friday. Won't mention that result, but we do go into district play coming up pretty soon, so should do pretty well. We've got senior night for the boys basketball this Friday. And Saturday is tentatively scheduled for our girls, but that might change. So I'm just mentioning that because that could change to another date. So be aware that could change. We played Paris on Friday, if you're interested in knowing that. And then Saturday was Beechwood, but I think that's changing for the girls. As you know, it's the greatest place to work on earth, greatest place to be on earth. I love it. My kids are loving it. Our kids are loving it in terms of our entire community. Momentum is incredible. It's just a great time to be a Panther. So I'm very fortunate to have a great team. We've got a lot of exciting things happening, and really proud of our kids and the work they're doing. I'm seeing a lot of step up in activities, community service, support for real things that are happening in our community. We're seeing it everywhere, whether it's our academic teams, it's our performance in the classrooms, but even outside, the arts, just supporting our families. Kids are doing some community service. I mean, we had kids who, even throughout the week, are going to serve, and some examples include right after the All-A championship game, we had kids go and serve. And we've had kids work with not just our homeless populations, but with some of our sick and some of our elderly, and just really proud of them. So we're doing some great things in the community, and so that's what I'm proud about. So it's a great day to be a Panther. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we have a meeting tomorrow, just a reminder with the Second Streets Council, that will be 5:30 at Second Street School. And I guess at this time, we will go into a closed session. Is there a motion to move into closed session for the purpose of completing the formative evaluation of the superintendent?
So,
The second.
And motion's been made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries and we are in closed session.